Welcome back to Hot Air, the LGBTQ plus podcast, where we cut through the noise, spill the hottest tea, and serve it with a side of sass. If you're looking for a one-stop shop breakdown of the latest LGBTQ plus news stories happening right now, you are certainly in the right place. We're going to round it up, tie it up in a cute little rainbow bow, and serve it to you in 12 to 15 minutes. This week's roundup covers everything from the shocking cancellation of Tampa Pride in 2026 to LUSH launching a trans flag bath bomb and putting their money where their mouth is. Also, the U.S. Department of Education partnering with Turning Point USA, insert yikes here, a bipartisan bill to reinstate a suicide prevention hotline for LGBTQ plus youth, and the FBI reportedly considering labeling trans people as nihilistic, violent extremists. So yes, what it is giving is absolute chaos, but there's also some more positive news out there. So don't worry, I'm going to break it down in plain English with receipts, context, and of course, a little humor so we can all try to stay just a tiny bit sane. So why don't we just get right into it? Let's hit it. Let's get to our news story number one. Tampa Pride 2026 is canceled. In a move that shocked many in the LGBTQ plus community, organizers announced the cancellation of Tampa Pride 2026. Pride events are more than just parades, as we know, and I've said it many times. They're community celebrations, political statements, especially nowadays, and big economic drivers for local businesses. Economic. Why did I say it like that? Rewind. Sometimes, listen, you guys, I'm Canadian. I talk a lot about United States politics and all the things happening here, but I'm still Canadian. I still have a weird accent and say some weird things. So, okay, focus in. And big economic drivers for local businesses. There we go. Cute. Tampa Pride president Carrie West explained that the decision came down to the current political climate in Florida under Governor Ron DeSantis. Between anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, drag bans, and constant attacks on queer visibility, organizers said they couldn't confidently plan such a large-scale event in an environment that feels increasingly hostile. Which really does make sense, but isn't that what they want? The ripple effect here? Not only will the LGBTQ plus community lose an important space for visibility and connection, but Tampa itself is losing millions in potential tourism revenue. Hotels, restaurants, bars, and local vendors who usually cash in on Pride festivities will now feel the loss. As we know, Pride is not just glitter and music. It's about visibility, resilience, and yes, economic power. Or as some might like to say, economic power. Both sound good to me, but canceling Pride sends a message that queer safety and joy are being actively squeezed out of public life in Florida and potentially nationwide. I'll be keeping my eye on this story and reporting back more should any more developments develop. I'm so tired and I think going crazy today. Our second story is LUSH. They launched a trans flag bath bomb and they're donating 75% of the profit. So here's a little positive story for you. On a much brighter note, LUSH Cosmetics just launched a limited edition trans flag bath bomb, and it's more than just pretty pastel bubbles and colors. The company announced that 75% of the profits will go directly to Trans Hub, which is a nonprofit resource center supporting trans people with healthcare, legal help, and community resources. The bath bomb, designed in the colors of the transgender flag, blue, pink, and white, isn't just about self-care. It's a statement of solidarity and an example of corporate allyship done right. While many companies slap rainbows on their products every June and then they call it a day, LUSH is putting real money into trans advocacy. And I think that is dope as fuck. Critics, of course, are crying, oh no, woke bubbles. They're going crazy online. But let's be honest here. Let's be fucking real. If a bath bomb threatens your worldview, maybe the problem is not the bath bomb. And by maybe, I mean the problem is not the bath bomb. Supporting LGBTQ plus causes means more than rainbow marketing. It means tangible financial support, advocacy, and visibility. Lush is showing that corporations can balance business with real impact. And I, for one, will be going to get one, or maybe several, because I live for a bath moment. Although I don't really use bath bombs, but I will now. Now, not to like really dim our light and our shine and our excitement about those Lush bath bombs, but moving on to news story number 3. The Department of Education is partnering with Turning Point USA. Yes, we're getting into some news that had the entire LGBTQ plus world collectively groaning. And groaning, not in a hot way. It's not hot, okay? Like a bad groan. Like, oh God, what's happening? The US Department of Education announced a partnership with Turning Point USA. For those that are unfamiliar, Turning Point USA is a conservative youth organization founded by Charlie Kirk, known for pushing anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric, book bans, and political activism in schools. I had a clip of Charlie speaking in the previous episode of Hot Air, so if you want to check that out and get a quick little snippet of how he actually feels about the LGBTQ plus community, you know where to find it. The official line is that this collaboration is about civic engagement, but critics argue that it's essentially giving Turning Point a pipeline into schools while sidelining LGBTQ plus and inclusive education programs. For a little bit more context, Turning Point USA has been a driving force behind attacks on trans-inclusive school policies, LGBTQ plus library books, and drag queen events. So the Department of Education legitimizing them as a partner? Yeah, that is a big-ass motherfucking red flag. I can't even take myself seriously today. Education shapes the next generation. We know that. And by aligning with organizations that openly oppose LGBTQ plus rights, the government risks erasing inclusive programs while empowering groups that stigmatize queer youth, only making it more challenging for people like me and people like some of you listening to grow up in a safe and inclusive world. Now we're going to balance that wild news with something a little bit more positive. News story number 4, a bipartisan bill seeks to reinstate LGBTQ plus suicide hotline. Finally, some hope in these grim times. A bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced a bill to reinstate a national suicide prevention hotline specifically for LGBTQ plus youth. The previous hotline, which offered specialized support for queer and trans kids, lost funding, aka the funding was taken away by the Trump administration. That left LGBTQ plus youth relying on the general hotline, where operators aren't always trained to handle the unique challenges that queer young people face. And I can feel the eye rolls now from people that are like, why do queer people need something special? Our life experience is vastly different than yours if you're listening and you're straight. You won't get it. I don't expect you to, but it's important that children that are growing up right now understand that they're not alone and have a place to go in which they can feel safe, especially if they're growing up in places that have little to no visibility for the LGBTQ plus community. The proposed bill would restore a dedicated line, ensuring that LGBTQ plus youth can speak to people who understand their struggles, whether it's coming out, bullying, rejection from family, or a mental health crisis. To be straight up, if I knew there was a hotline like this when I was growing up, 100% would have used it. This is a big deal because LGBTQ plus youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers. And it's not about being queer, it's about the constant stigma, discrimination, and attacks on existence. Suicide prevention saves lives. A dedicated LGBTQ plus hotline could provide life-saving support to vulnerable youth, proving that bipartisan cooperation can still do some good. And the last news story that I'm going to cover today, number 5, FBI considers labeling trans people as nihilistic violent extremists. I'm gonna vom. And here's the jaw dropper. Reports surfaced that the FBI is considering categorizing transgender people as nihilistic violent extremists. Let's go ahead and unpack this. The term suggests that trans individuals are inherently prone to violence because their identities reject societal norms, which is absolutely absurd. Trans people are far more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators, which I've said a million times. I can say it till I'm blue in the face. Trans people are more likely to be on the receiving end of a crime, a hate crime, a murder, a sexual assault, versus the ones committing those crimes. Critics argue that this is a dangerous overreach that could justify surveillance, profiling, and harassment of trans people simply for existing. And that seems about right. It plays into harmful stereotypes that trans identity is somehow linked to radical extremism and also mental health issues, rather than being what it actually is, a valid expression of self. Trans is just one of many ways to be. The government labeling has consequences. Framing trans people as extremists doesn't just stigmatize, it creates a chilling effect that could increase discrimination, justify crackdowns, and fuel anti-trans narratives. It's only going to give everyone more reason to go after the trans community as if they're not going after them enough right now. And here's why these stories and sharing these stories matters. Together, these news stories show the highs and the lows of where we are as a community in 2025. And that's just a little tiny snippet of just things in the last few days. On one hand, we see corporations like LUSH putting real dollars into trans advocacy and bipartisan efforts to support queer youth mental health. On the other hand, we see pride events canceled out of fear, extremist groups gaining government partnerships, and federal agencies painting trans people as threats. This is also a reminder that LGBTQ plus rights are not guaranteed. They're fought for, defended, and constantly under attack. It almost seems like we're never not under attack now. But it's also proof that resilience, solidarity, and visibility matter now more than ever. So these are stories that are really important to share. So share this episode with your friends, your family. This is such a short little sweet snippet. I actually really enjoyed relaying these messages, even though some were more on the negative side. I think it's so important that we stay in the know. We can turn a blind eye and ignore this stuff, pretend it is not going on until it is at our doorstep, which is a tale as old as time. I get it. It's easy to ignore some of these things, but all you have to do is copy the link and text it to your group chat, or go to the Instagram and share the reel. Even if it's not mine, it could be anyone else's. You gotta stay in the know, especially for these good things, because now we can go buy bath bombs and we can support our trans friends. That's what fucking allies do. If that's what I expect my friends and my family, I gotta do it first. So with all of that being said, thank you for listening to this episode, this tiny little baby episode of Hot Air. I will be back next week with a very exciting episode. I am actually extremely nervous to record it, to meet with these people. I'm not going to say very much because this is like a huge deal for me. Could go could go one of two ways. I could completely shit it up. I could completely have a mental breakdown while recording it, or be professional and keep my cool and my calm. I think I'm going to go with option B, but you never know. The world is crazy sometimes. If you want to stay up to date and in the know, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at _hotairpod. Head over to my website, hotairwithjoshuarobert.com. You can now sign up for my newsletter. I'm aiming for the first one to be out the first week of October to celebrate the 6-month anniversary of Hot Air. You can also submit your listener stories there. It could be a coming out story. It could be a time that you struggled with allyship. It can also be a positive story. There's a lot of really good things that happen to us. I am realizing that I kind of come at all of this stuff from a very stressful and anxious point of view. And I'd really like to continue to balance the scary things that are happening that are important to know about with some more positive things. So if you do have positive, happy, LGBTQ plus focused stories to share, feel free to send them in. And I am going to let you go. Happy Friday. I will see you next Tuesday.